Good afternoon, evening, whenever you are watching this, wherever you are watching it from. Deborah Roth here from Spirited Living and back with another addition to our Inner Goddess Team video series. And once again, I've come across a goddess, this happened a couple weeks ago, that in another form by another name I had actually highlighted back in December of 2020. This week, we are looking at Fauna, the Roman goddess of the woodlands, particularly of animals, and divination, fertility. She's got a lot of associations. And her name may sound familiar because we talk about fauna. We talk about flora and fauna being vegetation and animals being plant life and animal life, because Flora was the Roman goddess of flowers and she was Fauna's sister. So, and the reason that we're talking about Fauna this week, hello Barbara, is that apparently, according to one of my favorite sources, and I've brought her up here again, Patricia Telesco's 365 Goddesses, talked about December 13th being a festival day for Fauna, when actually I found in a couple other resources that December 4th was another one in the spring, because she's also considered to be a fertility goddess, which we think of in the spring. So just I jumped right in with that just because it's always fun for me to see when I've been doing this for over 2 years. So when I actually discovered that I've done some version of her before. So please, if you have information, if you're familiar with Fauna, I'd love to hear your encounters or your connection, and we'll talk about ways to actually embody that. This video you can watch on Instagram, on Facebook. I always post them on my YouTube channel where they'll be forever. Please like, comment. I'm really loving to get the word out there, to bring back this divinely feminine energy, which I go into more detail on my YouTube channel, on all of my Inner Goddess Team videos. Someplace, usually a couple minutes in, sometimes at the end, there's a link to a video that describes exactly what I mean by divinely feminine wisdom, that our world is so desperately in need of right now, and which I like to think is coming back slowly but surely. The qualities of empathy and compassion and building community and cooperation and collaboration versus, harsh competition, of honoring our bodies, honoring nature, celebrating our intuition, our emotions, all of those things. Much more detail on that bigger one, the bigger video that I did about it. So check that out on the YouTube channel. Certainly go to my website and you will see all the links for all the different social media places and more information about my divinely feminine coaching that I do as well, along with all the other fun things that I do. So coming back, a little commercial there. So coming back to Fauna, she's probably a lesser known goddess. She was the consort of, which usually just means she was multiple things, wife, mother, daughter of Faunus. And he was a bigger, more well-known goddess, also of the woodlands, kind of comparable from places that I read to Pan, who was this, kind of god of debauchery and wild celebration and all that. So really much of what we hear in the myth of Fauna as connected to Faunus is that kind of wild, liberating sexual energy, particularly for women. She was embraced as a woman goddess. Her temple, men were not allowed in. One version, one version of her myth says that she was a goddess of chastity and chose, like other virgin goddesses, who she would sleep with. Didn't necessarily mean that she didn't have sex. And I talk about that in another video that I did in December of 2020 on Bona Dea. Why do I bring Bona Dea up? Because, and this is one of the things I discovered, Bona Dea, how did they describe her? She is the occult name of Fauna. And Bona Dea basically means the good goddess. And her true name was considered to be so sacred that you weren't supposed to say it out loud. Men were not allowed, as I said, in her rituals. And some of the speculation is that men would alternately call Fauna, a prostitute or promiscuous because she was connected with Faunus. But then they'd rationalize their not being allowed in her temple, respecting her vows of chastity, which in the very patriarchal Roman times, they would have to figure out how to do that. So I think she's also and this comes also from Faunus's, the god Faunus, from his connections, that he would, as a god of nature and of both the cultivated lands but also the wilds in the forests and the woodlands, that he would use his connection with nature as a way to receive and to send messages to humans. And so Fauna, by association, is connected with divination. I have, where's the picture? This is one representation that I found of Fauna. And her whole connection with divination, I have a wonderful colleague who wrote this book, The World is Your Oracle, Nancy Feder-Schultz, and she and I had connected several years ago, had a wonderful lunch together. And one of the ways, so I invite you, if you're not familiar with Fauna, if you are, I want to hear your experiences. But if you're not, one of the ways that you can invoke her is to go into nature. And I live in New York City, and I've got plenty of nature in Riverside Park and Central Park. So you don't have to go into a deep forest, but go somewhere that you can connect with. Animals would be nice. This is Fauna, the goddess of animals. But really just connecting with natural surroundings, and bring a libation to Fauna. It could be wine or milk. It's said that Roman women were not allowed to drink wine, so they brought milk to their worshiping of Fauna, which may actually have been wine. Either one, it's offered as a libation for the goddess and come with a question. So sitting outside somewhere, offer a libation, and then ask a question, and then spend maybe 20 minutes just sitting and listening. What bird calls do you hear? Is there a squirrel running by? Do you hear whispering in the trees? So it's really coming to nature, and that's what The World is Your Oracle, that the book that I showed you, really opens up your mind and your heart, your spirit, to listen or see messages from the divine in the natural world around you. So that's one of the ways that you can really connect with Fauna. What else do I want to tell you about her? She, I think that's probably, one of the things that I thought was interesting, and it probably goes with that same dichotomy of whether she is considered a prostitute and promiscuous, or whether she's considered this chaste virgin. And that's that she represents this thin line representing the wild and the untamed, because in this place of divination, you have to go deep. And in the world of dreaming, sending messages through dreams, which Fauna was said to do, that's a deep kind of wild, mysterious place. And so there's that, the going deep part of it, but then coming back out and then being very grounded in nature. So there's like many of these of the myths and the stories behind these goddesses. There's some contradiction depending on what part of ancient Rome you were hearing information from. One of them said that one of the other conflicting stories is that Faunus was actually her second husband, that she connected with him after she hooked up with Hercules and had a son whose name is escaping me right now. Let's see if it'll pop out at me. I want to say Libertus or something like that, through Hercules. And then another version of the myth says that she actually had an affair with Hercules when she was with Fauna. Faunus, sorry. So the bottom line is, for us as both men and women, and remember when I talk about the divine feminine, we all have those traits within us, that when we're embracing the energy, the gifts, the wisdom of Fauna, it's really opening ourselves up as a channel to receive messages from nature. So I invite you to think about that, to go out into wherever nature is around you, and to use this connection to remember. And I think all of these goddesses that I highlight here just help us remember what we have inside us. It's why I call this the Inner Goddess Team, this video series, because we all carry this kind of wisdom within us. It's just a question of how we activate it. I'd love to hear your stories. Please do like, comment, get in touch with me. I just found out yesterday I've had 200 new subscribers just in the last year on YouTube. So please subscribe there. Check out Instagram and Facebook if you're, wherever you're watching this. So what I do want to share with you, I love to, if you've been watching these, that I love to sing chants. I couldn't come up, and I know a lot of chants. I know a lot of goddess chants. I couldn't come up with an animal-related one, and I'm sure it's out there somewhere. But what did come up was a beautiful hymn that I remember from growing up in the Presbyterian Church, that there is now a beautiful version of in my Unitarian Universalist tradition that I'm now part of. And it may be familiar to some of you. So it's just a little taste, just a little bit of the nature-animal connection that we honor when we celebrate Fauna this week or whenever you're watching her. All creatures of the earth and sky, come, kindred, lift your voices high. Alleluia, alleluia. Bright burning sun with golden beam, soft shining moon with silver gleam. Alleluia, 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 alleluia. Isn't that lovely? And I love the reference to the sun and the moon too. So right down my alley. And it seems particularly apropos. I think it's more of an Easter song that would bring in the Fauna's fertility energy that is also up in the spring. But it also seems very celebratory in this season of celebration in the Christian tradition, with Christmas, of course, coming up. So I think that's all I'm going to let you know. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Come back. I'll be off next week because there's so much going on. I'm doing a virtual new moon circle, and you can find information about that on my, where can you find that? I guess by subscribing to my newsletter or reach out if you want to come to a really wonderful new moon circle. And next week is also the winter solstice. And my Unitarian church, I'll be co-facilitating a winter solstice ritual there too. So lots going on next week. So felt like a little bit much to do this, but I will be back after that. Have a beautiful holiday season, and we will connect in that week between Christmas and New Year's. Blessed be, and namaste.